Hey, this is Patrick Rogers here, and today we have the privilege to have Lisa Small on the show. And Lisa is the founder and CEO of Habitual Growth. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So Lisa's an accomplished leader and entrepreneur with multi-disciplinary industry experience spanning startups to global $10 billion corporations. She specializes in building high-performance teams and instilling core discipline and excellence into company culture. I love that. I did that for years and years, so it's fantastic to have you on the show, Lisa. She's also the CEO of Lisa Small Consulting, which focuses on creating a positive legacy and developing leaders within her local communities. She's also a founder of Habitual Growth, which is a personalized platform that provides an ecosystem for individuals seeking personal evolution and growth. She's dedicated to her mission, which is to grow 5 million lives by 2027. Lisa hails from Minneapolis, Minnesota, is an avid fitness lover with minimal eye-hand coordination, producing unending entertainment for those around her. She's also the proud mom of 5, 3 of her own and 2 bonus children, and refuels by spending time at the lake with her husband, Doug, 2 rescue pups, and a rabbit. So Lisa, I'm excited for our time together. Again, we both come from the consulting world. Number one, can't wait to dive into all the amazing stuff that I know that you're doing for other clients out there. Before we dive into your journey and habitual growth and consulting, what's one interesting fact that not many people know about you?
I would say I'll build on the lack of eye-hand coordination, which in fact is I cannot stay upright on a bike.
Oh,
it
interesting.
Is very much a challenge for me. So bike riding is not among my core competencies or strengths, you could say. Don't share that around, Patrick.
Well, it's going out now. So I take it you don't take bike rides with your kids then, or they do, but it's entertainment.
Yeah, they ride, I run.
Okay,
for
all
everyone.
Right. Well, that works. Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like a 16-year-old when they get their license, stay off the sidewalks, right?
That's right.
Cool. And so, awesome. So tell us about what you're doing. Tell us about Lisa Small Consulting and Habitual Growth.
Yeah, sure. I'll start with Lisa Small Consulting and maybe just share a little bit of the backstory with you. So a couple years ago, my dad was diagnosed out of the blue with stage 4 lung cancer. Non-smoker, always went to the doctor, kind of took our family by surprise. And through that journey with him, kind of the last 10 months of his life, I began to realize the impact that he had in our community and the legacy that he left. And I remember sitting at his memorial service and watching the people file up to my mom and to my brother and sister and I and share their stories about his impact. And all I could think to myself was, man, that's a legacy that I want to leave too. And so from that became this mission of really building the leaders and people within my community and leaving that lasting legacy as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So from a consulting perspective, just with Lisa Small Consulting, I'm focused currently on youth development in the community. So working with some of our local sports teams, their coaches, helping young teens and young athletes develop the mental toughness, the accountability, the physical awareness and health aspects that are so important to ingrain foundationally early as we grow into adulthood, so that they can become successful and leaders as they go about their journey outside of the community into the broader world.
Wow. So you're helping coaches and other mentors that work with children develop skill sets in leadership life, but you're coaching the coaches, right? You're not actually coaching the children.
I'll do both. Sometimes they'll have me come in and talk about, the importance of eating right, or how you refuel after, sports games, or in preparation after long lifting segments. But a component of that coaching, you're right, is talking with coaches how to lead by example. I'm not sure if you have children. I have, 14
I do.
daughters.
Yep. Yeah. They're gone now, but yeah.
You know that
I'm an old guy.
they don't just believe what you say. You've got to show them too, and you've got to show them the results. And so an important part of that is just helping the team collectively, which does include coaches and mentors, live that lifestyle and produce the results in their own life, so that the youth see that and want to follow suit.
Yeah. Do you think that sounds like that's a really important part of it?
It is to me. I think from where I sit, it's the most impact that I could provide. It's getting in there and you're trying to instill habits and a personal accountability at a younger age. And it's kind of like that old saying, raising tides raise all ships. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
you hope that as people go out in the world and you've touched them in some capacity, that they do that same thing for others.
Yeah, I love that. Very cool. Awesome. And so with your coaching with them? So a lot of it is primarily focused around helping the coach lead by example.
Yeah.
What would you say is the next big thing that you really help the coaches do um, more effectively?
Yeah, I think the next big thing is helping them streamline communication and prioritization for their players, depending
Mm,
on where they're at with their teams. So a
mm,
coach that's leading or mentoring or building a team in the off season or in preseason may have different focuses than they do during the actual season themselves. And you can even break down the season into smaller pieces. And so it's just saying, all right, what are you trying to get out of this time period with your team? What's the most priorities? How do we communicate that? And how do we make that measurable and something that we can keep people accountable for?
mm.
It just makes it very black and white for people, and they know what's expected of them, and what the coaches are going to be looking for. And likewise, the coaches then are able to take inventory as we go through the seasons and say, all right, here's where we're at, here's where we came from,
Mhm.
this is what's working and what isn't. And so building in also that kind of reflective honesty that's
Yeah.
needed throughout that process.
Yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. And do you just do that locally there in Minneapolis, or do you do that remotely as well?
Right now, I just do it locally in
Okay.
Minneapolis. With the launch of Habitual Growth, maybe a great segue
Yeah.
is
Perfect.
hopefully to be doing that more broader. It's, as you mentioned, part of our primary purpose is 5 million lives grown, and that includes not only youth but also any individual that's looking for that next level of personal development or evolution.
So what does that mean to grow 5 million lives by 2027?
So it means basically that we're going to engage 5 million users, and not users that come into the platform or the ecosystem and they download the app and that's it. It's a progression of time where people start to build on day-to-day progress. They start to achieve some goals. We can see the habits that people are building, and more importantly, creating the infrastructure of connectivity between
Mm,
users based on what their priorities are, what their goals, what habits they're trying to build, and kind of build up that community feel for collective growth over time. So it's really taking the data and the people that are engaged with us and watching how they grow. What are they accomplishing? What successes have they had in their lives? I mean, that's, to me, is the biggest value and impact into what we're doing.
yeah. So is this so about the app? Is it more for habitual growth, right? Is it more for people for professionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of the above?
It is all of the above. It came from a gap that I personally saw in
Oh,
the corporate space.
okay.
So through my time leading different teams, there was the corporate speak that, hey, create this wonderful career blueprint or map. You're going to talk about it once or twice a year, ready, go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of got left there. And some people would fill it out, but it always seemed to come back to the manager that was
Mm,
like, well, here it is. What do you have for me to do? And I started to notice this disconnect between where people saw it in a silo. I do this, my manager gives me something else that's going to move forward my growth. And if they don't have anything for me, or it's deprioritized because of business, needs or whatever that is, it just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so I wanted to build something that could be used in the professional setting as well, but also personally, where people could say, I'm accountable and I'm responsible for my growth in whatever aspect that is. And so the Habitual Growth app allows users to build goals, link daily actions into categories so that they can see over time where they're prioritizing and what they're trying to work towards if they're actually spending their time there.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so do you when are you looking to launch? Are you're pre-revenue, right? Pre-launch?
We're pre-launch. We're in the late stages of development now. So June will be our public launch, and that will be out there on social media. Our website will be live here shortly, and we'll be launching our full media campaign and getting people involved in any way we can. And if you're in early, you get the added benefit of some one-on-one time, some coaching that will be available to users that are early adopters, just to get people started on the right foot. I think that's a really important element of this too. It's not, here's a mobile application, one and done, good luck. It's, hey, this is a tool, you're accountable, let's do this together.
Okay, so there's actually people in the app that will be assisting in some form as a coach, some means?
For early adopters, we'll be limiting, but really it's
you'd have to, I think,
there. Yeah. I mean, if 5 million people sign up right on day one, I might have a problem. But the
Come on, I
intent
thought you're a hard worker, Lisa.
yeah, there's so many hours in the day. But no, it's really, because it's such a passion of mine and it's something that's built into the fiber of everything I do every day. I want people that come on and begin to use it to understand how it can be used to the highest extent to support their growth. And like a lot of other things, I hope it creates a ripple effect. You love the app, you start to see your growth, you tell your friend about it, you go in and start to show them, hey, here's what I found that's been really helpful. And then as the community aspect continues to grow, other people are able to do that. So it almost becomes a self-supporting growth community.
So what's you guys are launching in June. What's your marketing? I know you touched on it just real briefly. What's your go-to-market strategy?
So our go-to-market strategy right now, we are focusing primarily on high-performing individuals in groups, entrepreneurs, or other smaller groups that we've been involved with. That's our initial target market that will roll out. And obviously, when the app hits the store, anybody can download it, but that's where the focus of our efforts will be. From there, we will be building pillars that are specifically related to corporate wellness. So we'll be doing some marketing to companies that want to grow, lack of a better term, grow their corporate wellness or professional development strategy for their employees, give them a tool that provides holistic view. There will also be a pillar of addiction therapy and physical therapy services, and then the youth development component will obviously be ingrained in there from the beginning as well.
Gotcha. So when you say high performing individuals like entrepreneurs and all that, are you sending out to them to have them test it to then see it? Are you going to have to, do you have to pay for that or access to them, or how does it typically work for you guys?
So we've actually already started that aspect of it. So we have a small beta group that's in testing currently. So people that we either personally know or have been connected with that are very in tune with, they know what their goals are, they know what habits they need to build, they know the direction that they're going, get in the app and break it and tell us all the things that, aren't working. The next wave beyond that will be what you and I talked about, is opening it the door, like the friends of the friends or the people that hear about it. So for example, I'm in a women's entrepreneur group called the Women of Arete Syndicate. And so those individuals are aware and will be invited to use the app with the additional aspect of coaching through the beginning of that app use.
Yeah. Did you guys take on investors?
We do not. This is a fully bootstrapped operation right
you
now.
Bootstrap this.
Can you tell I'm
Wow.
sweating in the background?
Yeah.
Talk
I
about
mean,
all.
wow. Gosh. I always like to ask how much have you put in. Sometimes people, it pisses people off, but do you think you're going to have to take on investors at some stage here?
I don't know. To be honest, we are realists in looking at what the app growth may need us to do. So,
Mm,
as part of our pilot strategy, we do have 2 companies that are willing to pilot for us in that corporate wellness and development space. In the off chance that we get a lot of traction from something like that, and we can grow the user base very quickly, and a revenue model that matches that, the demand from a data storage and capability on the app.
yeah.
Obviously, we'd like to keep things as private as possible. However, we're not opposed to the opportunity to seek investors so that we can scale multiple different arms of the app more quickly, should that user base need to come about sooner than we had anticipated.
Yeah. Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you had a bit of a story with your journey from being laid off and how you got to where you are today.
Yes, you're gonna pick at that wound right now. Um, yes. So maybe another fun fact, I'm actually a pharmacist by training.
Oh, okay.
So I started my career in retail pharmacy and eventually moved over into inpatient patient care at a local hospital. Um, did that for about 12 years, decided I didn't like nights, weekends, holidays, and being on call as much as I loved serving patients. And so I ended up in an industry job in the pharmaceutical industry. And after about 2.5 years, I was laid off very suddenly. And I can tell you that's probably the lowest point that I've ever been,
Mm,
because it was a in-your-face realization that I had not done the work on myself to build skills outside of the job I was actively doing at that time.
yeah, but most people don't really, I mean, most people just, you get in your corporate job and you think everything's good. Oh, they got my back,
Yeah,
they're never going to lay me off. And then,
yeah. I'm
they do.
indispensable.
Yeah. They need me. I'm super important here. Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're not a cog in a wheel, really.
Okay. Yeah, and yeah, that just hit me in a way that was, I don't know, it changed the trajectory of how I saw what I had to do and what I also needed to teach my children.
Mm, mm,
Um,
love that.
yeah, it just, so coming from a place of being the primary bread earner to wondering, now what? I don't want to go back to what I was doing,
Hmm.
but where do I go from here and how quickly can I build skills? And man, I struggled mentally,
Yeah.
physically, all the way around trying to figure it out. And so I empathize so deeply with people that find themselves in that situation. And so maybe it was an early indication that habitual growth would eventually come to be. But it took time to dig out and to find someone willing to give me a chance so I could start to build other skills. And that was one of the most positive things I learned as someone who would eventually lead teams, was to look beyond the skills on the paper, and figure out the actual potential of someone coming into a new position or role and what they could learn to bring into that position that wasn't evident right from the start.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had a podcast actually recording earlier today for another gentleman, and he said the first thing, this is how the hiring process. The first thing I do is I throw out the resume.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I do. I don't even look at it. I don't give him an interview or not an interview based on that. We just have it, we bring him in. Like, oh, that's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, I don't know that I would go that far.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their own. I do agree it's not everything, but I can glean enough from a resume.
Sure.
Um,
Do they have the basic qualifications and skill sets that I need for this position, right? Yeah,
and
of
how
course.
have they tried to put it together? What's the presentation? How
Yeah.
much have you tailored it to what you think I'm looking for? What kind of effort
Mm,
has it shown? Because cookie cutter resume is very easily identifiable to another one where someone's maybe put in a little extra time or care.
they put some effort into it. Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. So, one of the things we had talked about that one of the keys to your success is really identifying and how to bring on these people that we call entrepreneurs. And I'd love for you to explain what is an entrepreneur, and then how you've brought them in and how you've been able to develop and strengthen those in your company.
Yeah, for sure. I love entrepreneurs. They are
You know how to find them.
I I know how to find them now. I didn't always. Um, and it really, to be honest, it took me thinking about hiring completely differently. So I'm honest, like when I started as someone who had to hire people, it was give me your resume, hey HR,
Yeah.
walk me through,
Mm,
and very quickly learned like, I might be looking for something else. And so an entrepreneur is someone I consider entrepreneurial minded. They have a different mindset and approach to their job or what their development or profession is going to be, and bringing them into a role gives them, in my experience, a higher level of success and a higher level of success for the team. So I look for people that really can demonstrate to me that they're personally accountable for whatever it is that they're doing. And so I will ask questions not only about their previous experiences, but maybe, things they're doing in the community or with their family or their physical fitness journey, however the conversation flows, to go, what are you willing to do to succeed? What are you willing to do to make sure that something gets done that you've set your mind to? Um, because I think it's one thing to put all your accolades on a piece of paper. It's another thing to ask someone to describe it in their own words on how they've
mm,
been able to do it. And so you can usually flesh out where the fluff is
mm.
with someone, compared to someone that's really hit some rough patches and they have had to figure out how to overcome them. So that's the personal accountability that I think is really important, because you bring those individuals in, they take whatever you ask of them very
Mhm.
seriously. And then they have this added component that I call like intuition and innovation. So as entrepreneurs, you have to go with your gut. There is something in situations that comes up and you go, that doesn't feel right. Or, yep, I don't know how this is going to work out, but that's the direction that I have to go. And even if you hit challenges, you believe in what your gut's telling you enough to bring innovation and creativity to ultimately achieve what you want to achieve. And so I look for individuals, entrepreneurs that have that as well. So can they go with their gut sometimes? Because especially in a corporate environment, you get a lot of politics, you get a lot of pushback because things, have always been done this way, or whatever the matrix is set up in hierarchy of, agreeing to do things. And so I need someone that's actually going to be able to gut check and say, no, I actually think this is the right direction, and here's some ideas of how we're going to get there. And then, like I
Yeah.
talked about, the other thing that entrepreneurs, I believe, really bring to the table is the ability to build skill sets on the fly. So if
Gotcha.
you're an entrepreneur and you are starting a business, you may be good at one aspect of something, like you're starting a marketing firm because you're good at marketing, but you may not know how to run the books. You may not know how to post on social media. You may not know a number of different things. And so I want to hire individuals who have that mindset as well, that are like, hey, I'm really good in this area. I can figure out on the fly how to get the other skills that I need to develop to make our team collectively successful.
So how do you tell the difference between someone who is, because what you kind of described to me, it almost sounds like as well an entrepreneur, right? Personally
Yep, for
accountable,
sure.
what they're responsible for,
Yep.
intuition, innovation, know their strength. How do you tell the difference between, Because if you hire someone who's actually entrepreneurial minded, you kind
Mhm.
of risk training your future competitor, right? Somebody who's going to go off and do it on their own. How do you tell the difference between the two?
I think some of that is flushed out. I like to ask questions about where people are headed, what their intent is. Um, and in my conversations, I take a little while to hire, but in those conversations, I also want to understand which individuals are happy being individual contributors as part of the team, which ones want to come into a company and aspire to leadership and grow teams in that organization. And I actually think it's the biggest compliment if I can grow someone within my team and they go off and leave and they do it better than me.
Mm,
To me, then I have developed to the highest potential for that individual. And so you're right, totally could happen. And I would wish that individual the best. But for me as a leader, I need the right people in the right seats being successful and developing together to make my team successful. I can't control where they go based on their
yeah.
own personal journeys.
Yeah. So then you had talked about, so we talked about the definition of an entrepreneur, how to find them. And then
Yep.
you also talked that one of your skill sets is being able to strengthen those entrepreneurs within your company. How do you specifically do that?
Um, I do a lot of well, I guess coaching, I could call that.
Okay.
Meeting with people, talking about how they want to develop personally as well as professionally. I probably walk a little bit of a fine line sometimes in the corporate world. Um, but I'm there to support all aspects of individual development. So if someone comes to me and we talk through what their priorities are, um, their priority at that stage of their life or in that season of their life, it may be that they are focused on getting out at 5 o'clock to see their family or being available for
Yeah. So you're going to
a
help them
community.
do whatever
Then
that
I'm going
is.
to
Yeah.
help you prioritize and build the skills to be efficient and effective in your day job so that you can step away
Mm.
versus another individual that comes and says, hey, my priority is fast career growth because in 3 years I want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to help them build a completely different roadmap of
Yeah.
skills and try to align opportunities so that they can follow the path that they want to.
Yeah, I know you said you walk a fine line with that, but I really think that there's not enough of that. Even some of the best companies out there, there's just not enough of people who are walking that fine line, who are really, managers who are really committed to knowing their people, not just professionally, but also personally and even professionally. Like I work with so many business owners, and when you dive down into the managers and just you get one or two levels away from the CEO, and the reviews that are happening, they're very impersonal. They might happen once a year, and how do you get better if you only know what you're doing wrong once a year? And does your manager really like know your kids? Do they know what you want to do in life? Does your manager know that you want to be a CFO someday? All these things.
Yeah,
And are they
yeah,
actively building you towards that? And the answer is most of the time it's no.
it's no. Yeah, yeah. It's really sad. So yeah, that's essentially where habitual growth, that idea came from, like I mentioned, because you're right. I mean, you have to care. You
Mm,
have to care about the individual first. You can draw the professional line, and there are plenty of times that I have been the most unpopular voice
I
in
bet, right?
meetings
Yeah.
or in one-on-ones, because part of that job in getting to know someone is also saying the hard things too, and saying it in a way that doesn't raise defenses and allows for
Yeah.
opportunities and ideas to come to the table on how to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had mentioned in our pre-talk that one of the challenges that you guys are facing and working on right now is the best way to hook users
Yeah.
so that they use the app long enough to begin and see progress. I think that's probably could carry over to anybody who's doing any kind of a business or app or anything else. What have you guys, what kind of strategies are you looking at in that vein?
Yeah, you're right. And I would even say it's probably in anything that anybody puts their mind to. We're in the
Sure.
age of,
Yeah.
quick recognition,
Right. If I don't see results right away, I'm out,
then
right? I'm
bye, I'm
bouncing.
out. So some of that is like through Lisa Small Consulting or in my corporate day job, like doing all those things and having those conversations, that's one thing. But the challenge for us with the Habitual Growth app is we're not going to be able to have that level of conversation with users. And so building in to our newsletters or our weekly emails or our social media posting and groups that are going to be developed is really that reiteration of consistency over time. So part of habitual growth, right? If you think our logo is this big sequoia tree, you plant a seed of a sequoia tree and you're not going to see it for years, for a long time. And then it's going to be this little tree. Yes. And so the point of that logo visual is believe in the time and the work that you're doing to eventually reap the harvest of what you're sowing, of what you're building to. And so eventually you will grow and you will develop into this massive success in whatever capacity that looks like for you. But it's going to take a lot of time with you doing simple, mundane things every single day that are prioritized according to where you want to go. And so that messaging is at the core of how we're going to get users to commit. And not everybody will, like, we're totally honest with ourselves. And it may take people several times coming back in and out of the app to find something that works at a time that's right for them to hear it and to really commit to it, because not everybody's ready when they think they're ready.
Yeah. And are you going to take, like, when someone has goals and break it down to as small as humanly possible and right? Because even if I achieve a super small goal, it's still something, right? It's that positive psychological reinforcement and recognition.
Right. Yes, you're completely right. So the users will create a minimum of 2 goals in the app. And from there, they do that first. And then they backtrack and they create a minimum of 5 essential actions, is what we call them.
Okay.
And those essential actions are their priority for the day that move them closer to their goals. Or if they've entered habits that they're trying to build in the app, that moves them forward towards that. So you're right. So you get to the end of the day. Have you checked everything off? Yes, you've conquered that day. That is a win. You have said what you're going to do, and you've been personally accountable for what you said you'd do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'd like to take just a few minutes and summarize some of my key takeaways from today, Lisa. Number one is it kind of sounds like your team really is and hiring process is really focused around entrepreneurs and entrepreneurially minded people, but they have a bit of a different approach to the job. They're more, they're not out trying to do their own thing. They're okay being an organization. They're personally accountable to what they're going to be responsible for. They have a high level of intuition. They have the ability to go with their gut if needed. And they're people that are aware of their strengths and weaknesses. They know where their strengths are. They also know where they need to improve on. And you kind of flesh the difference between the two out in your hiring process. And how you develop them is really coaching, not just coaching on a professional, but on a personal standpoint. Maybe it is family. Maybe it's, you talk about drawing that line. So I imagine with habitual growth, it's probably, coaching on a number of different areas and not just work. And the last thing I thought, which we just talked about, which was great, was that in your app and launching, which is really any business, anything, is how you get customers to get some immediate recognition or immediate results and feedback very quickly. Or else they get bored, they fall off the wagon, whatever. So Lisa, if there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from our time together today, what would that be?
Oh, I think to have faith in the process. So when someone's committed to developing themselves, it's to have faith in the process that you have to walk through to get there. That's so important. If you don't believe in you, it's not going to happen, and you're not going to put the time in to get there.
Love it. Awesome. Great, Lisa. If any of our listeners wanted to reach out and get a hold of you for any follow-up questions, or if they wanted to subscribe and try out the Habitual Growth app, I know it's not launched yet, but what's the website or how can they do that?
Yeah, heck yeah. If anybody's interested, they can drop me an email at lisa@habitualgrowth.com. habitualgrowth.com, and habitual is HABITUAL growth.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
your website launched yet?
It is not. It will be
Okay, cool.
habitualgrowth.com when it's live. That will also be coming in June. But the easiest way now is drop me an email, and I'm happy to connect with them and get them set up.
Fantastic. Lisa, again, thank you for being on the show. This was fantastic.
Oh, so great, Patrick. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. And for the listeners, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about the show and what we're doing here. We're helping the next generation of leaders and CEOs be that much more successful. With that, I'm Patrick Rogers, your host, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.